What's up, people? This exit right up here. This next exit, Kings Highway exit. It's the very first, unfortunately, not the last place that I was shot at in my lifetime. It's Washington Park, Illinois. I was dating this. Washington Park's on that side, and then East St. Louis is on that side. When I was a freshman, I was dating a junior in high school. Her name was Michelle. She lived in Washington Park. I told my mom, I said, I need a ride to go see my girlfriend. And I was a freshman, I wasn't driving yet. And she says, okay, where's she live? I said, Washington Park. She said, I'm not driving you down to Washington Park, because it's known as a bad neighborhood. It's rough. My homeboy Johnny grew up down in Washington Park. There's a guy named Petey I've been trying to locate just to thank him. I had a guy, I was in the county jail, and I used to hook up envelopes for people, draw stuff for them on their envelopes. That's how I made my extra zoos and wham money. But at the time, you could buy shoes on commissary. And I bought a pair of Adidas tennis shoes. And I wasn't thinking about gang stuff, and they were red and white. A guy from an organization, I didn't know he was in an organization. I didn't know much about that kind of stuff. And this was in a misdemeanor block. But he said, hey man, them some nice shoes. And I said, thanks, and kept drawing. And he said, I want them. And I stood up. I said, if you can get these off my feet, you can have them. And he tried to. All I did is sidestepped him and slung him, and his head hit the blunted hook that we would hang towels on right there by the shower in the block, and it split his dome. And he was down. They were pushing that panic button, we got one down. Medical come in, they got him out, the guards did, and then they were questioning people, wanting to know what had happened. Nobody said nothing. But things just started calming down, and dudes started grouping up, and I thought, oh shit, here we go. And there was a guy in there, Petey. They called him Bug-Eyed Petey. But he must have carried some weight with those guys, because he said, you leave that white boy alone, that white boy's got heart. And they stopped dead in their tracks. They was heading up to the day room. And if he wouldn't have said something, I most definitely would have got my ass beat. There was about 10 of them. And I've always wanted to thank him for that. Last I heard on him, he's a hard man to find, and you wouldn't think so. Last I heard, he got shot and was paralyzed in a wheelchair. He's been a hard man to find, though. Anybody knows Bug-Eyed Petey from Washington Park, hit me up and let me know, or let him see this video. Tell him the white boy with heart said thank you. But that's the first place I was actually shot at, was in Washington Park. My mom wouldn't give me a ride down there, and young boy, hormones going, wanting to get down there to that gal. I found a way down there, and she wasn't home when I knocked on her door, so I was hanging around, and I ran into a guy about my age, don't even know his name, but we were cutting through this yard, and we jumped the back fence into the alley, and man, the sun had just gone down, and this guy come out on the back porch, and it had to have been 44, 45 caliber pistol, because the flames coming out of that gun, and it was just boom, boom, boom. He's shooting at us, yelling, "You fucking punk-ass motherfuckers cutting through my yard," and fucking, I heard bullets zipping by, and this guy that I'm with pulls a gun out of the front of his pants. It was a little 25 caliber pistol. Pulls it out of front of his pants, and he shoots 3 shots up in the air before I grabbed a hold of it out of his hand, and I started shooting at motherfuckers shooting at us. It all happened quick. His porch light went out, and he ducked back in the house, and we ran. I mean, we ran. My heart was pounding. I was scared to death. It's the first time I was ever shot at. And we finally stopped running, and I looked at him and I said, "What do you even carry a gun for?" And I handed him his gun back. And I said, "This guy's firing at us with a cannon. And you're going to pull your gun out and start shooting up in the air, so we got to worry about them bullets coming down and hitting us too?" I mean, if ever there was a time to return fire, it was right then and there. Motherfuckers shooting at us for cutting through his yard. I mean, they do not play around down there. Washington Park, East St. Louis State Park, that whole area on the east side of St. Louis ain't nothing nice. Ain't no place to be fucking around. My buddy Shane, that's where I'm heading right now. When we was in high school, him and 3 other guys and 2 girls from high school were down there fucking around with shit they shouldn't have been fucking around with, and they got a guy with them that's supposedly taking them to get something, and all the guys ended up in the trunk of the car, and they took those girls house to house, gang raping them. And if it wasn't for Shane, every one of them be dead. Shane kicked the back seat out from the trunk. He managed to kick the back seat out where he could get out, and they ended up getting help and shit. But fucking those girls, you're taking girls, high school girls, house to house, doing that shit to them. You got 3 guys in the trunk. Make no mistake about it, they weren't planning on letting anybody live. Very dangerous place. And then the town me and Nate grew up in, this town here, it's borders East St. Louis, right up the hill on the bluffs. We used to go down. I grew up in Signal Hill. It's the neighborhood right next to East St. Louis, and we'd walk down the hill and go to the liquor store, because every liquor store down there's got bulletproof glass, and it's got a drawer. And you tell them what you want, put your money in the drawer, and they get what you want, put your change and what you want in the drawer, and slide the drawer back out to you. Every gas station, liquor store down there is bulletproof glass. That's how violent and dangerous it is. There was a time I could move around down there real well. I remember one night, me and my buddy Bobby, we went to Club 24/7. We was the only white motherfuckers in the whole place. But I knew a lot of people from the county jails and down in that neighborhood. I have some white friends that grew up down in East St. Louis. And let me tell you, they grew up as poor as any black person down there, and they had to fight a hell of a lot harder because they were white. One of them, I'm not going to say his name, because he is active, and he's active in the gangbanging lifestyle. He's a white boy. He's in a black gang, but let me tell you, he is all about his business, man. he's down for what he signed up for. I was in a prison gang. I was lucky though. The prison gang I was in, it only exists in prison. So when I got out, I could be a father, a husband, a grandfather. I didn't have to keep banging out here. Now, if I'd ever go back to prison, I would have to honor what I signed up for. I'd have to soldier again. And I pray to God that don't ever happen, because my heart ain't in it no more like that. God has changed me, and I'm not the same. I used to have a heart that I could do whatever, and it didn't really bother me. And God has really softened my heart to where I don't know if I could do the things that I would have to do anymore. I guess if it came down like it does a lot of times to self-preservation, I'd do what the hell I had to do, you know. Like I did last time. I used to beat myself up all the time about shit that I did in prison. And a guy named Demel Hanna, he did 17 years in Illinois. He was in prisons that I was in, and he helped me a lot with that. He said, you know, Rod, you was in the jungle. You was trying to survive. You did what you had to stay alive. Once he found out that I was certified flag holder and everything, he said, you're always telling me that you got a hard time forgiving yourself for things you did. And it helped me. I know what I did was still wrong, but it helped me a little bit, because I did what I had to do to make my out date. My nightmares are not, as an adult, they're not so much things that happened to me. My nightmares are people's eyes just looking at me like, please stop, please stop. I was a known scrapper when I got to prison. There was people in there that knew me. They put the word out for me, and when I signed up, they put me where everybody's got things that they're good at. You got some guys that are good at negotiating with guards. You got some guys that are good at negotiating with other organizations. They put me on enforcer and security. And they put me at what I was good at. And some guys are only good for shoving drugs up their keister and moving it from place to place, you know, but I got mixed feelings about the gang thing. I had an organization approach me about a tattoo, telling me I had to cover it up. I told them I wasn't covering nothing up. The smart thing to do would have been to cover it up. But I don't like to be told what I'm going to do and what I'm not going to do. I never did sit well with me. And a buddy of mine had already put word in for me, and I hooked up. And once I hooked up, they didn't come nowhere near me. But it saved me definitely getting fucked up real bad. Maybe it probably would have been easier to kill me than to try to get me to cover it up or to cut it off or burn it off. But so it saved me some drama there hooking up. But nobody rides for free. when you sign up for something like that, you're gonna be checked. You're gonna have to do things that you might be able to do, but you're gonna have to live with down the road. And once you got a heart, some of those things might be real hard for you to live with. That's why I always say the heart I used to have would serve me much better in the world we're living in now. But I remember what it's like to truly be afraid that you're not capable of loving anybody more than you love yourself, you know. I remember what that feels like. To think, am I a sociopath? I'd rather have a heart that can be hurt than to have no heart at all. And ever since I've gotten kinder and I've changed, you know, there's words on the street over here that, oh, Mark's nice now. You know, don't mistake my kindness for weakness. But I would much rather have people like me because they say, hey, he's a good guy, you know, than to have people respect me just because they fear me. But I'm going to hop off here. None of my brothers like cameras too much. I'll talk to you later.